Ezra Klein says, don't fund this government. Now, this is a stunner. This made me almost fall out of my chair this morning reading it. The New York Times lead columnist Ezra Klein says Democrats should refuse to fund the government later this month. In his column, Stop Acting Like This Is Normal, Klein argues that a routine spending bill would fund Trump's autocratic takeover, adding, quote, I don't see how they can do it. Klein says March's logic, that's when the Democrats did back the continuing operations of the government. They could have shut it down there. The logic in March no longer applies. The Supreme Court is deferring to the president. Doge's shock therapy is morphing into consolidation, and markets aren't forcing a course correction. A shutdown, he argues, is an intentional event that forces the country to confront what he calls authoritarianism happening. His prescription: if Democrats won't shut it down, they must at least set clear, narrow demands, restore watchdogs, stop masks raids, curb self-dealing, and hold the line. Otherwise, he says, voting for a clean, continuing resolution is complicity. Klein's bottom line: if there's a better plan than a shutdown, let's hear it right now. Okay, what's the real message here? Ezra Klein says the Democrats have to shut down the federal government, not vote to extend the debt ceiling. At first, I thought this was crazy, but more than I think about it, I think he is 100% correct. Americans need to wake up and realize this is an absolute slow-moving and sometimes fast-moving coup. This is Donald Trump having a complete authoritarian takeover of the government, and anything that can stop it, anything that can put a wrench in the machinery to stop it is a good thing. We can't take one more day of him taking over citizens with masked thugs, of enriching himself with more crypto schemes, of him using the Department of Justice to terrorize everyone who criticizes him. If it takes shutting down the government, that is a price we need to pay. Okay, so let's go a little deeper here, because this is a serious matter. This is a very, very serious matter. And it's typically always the Democrats who have to be the grown-ups in the room. The Republicans like to posture of, so I'm voting to make our government leaner and more efficient. I'm not going to vote to increase the debt limit. And in fairness, Barack Obama did that one time when he was a senator. But it's been mostly a Republican tactic. And Ezra Klein says it's one of the few levers of power that the Democrats have. So here's what's happening is the House is controlled by the Republicans. The United States Senate is controlled by the Republicans, but it's very small margins. And in order to repeal the debt ceiling and make it a higher ceiling so the government can keep paying its bills, it requires 60 votes in the United States Senate. Well, that can't happen without at least a handful of Democrats. So this is one of the few areas anywhere in public life where Democrats do have some power. They don't control the White House. They don't control the administration. They don't control the Supreme Court. They don't control the House. They don't control the Senate. They don't control most governorships, but they do have power in this one issue. So maybe it's time they use it. That's the thinking. So Klein's point is this is a chance for the Democrats to get the attention of the whole country. Because right now, things are swirling out of control every day, whether it's Epstein files, whether it is the government trying to take over the Panama Canal, which we haven't heard much about recently, thankfully, the National Guard going to Chicago and LA and New Orleans. It's one atrocity after another. The president enriching himself with numerous crypto scams, the constant daily onslaught of foreign countries trying to get on the good side of Trump with bribes, whether they're giving him planes or trying to build hotels in his name. Every single day, it's not one, it's often dozens of crimes that in any other presidency, any other era, Republican, Democrat, Whig, you name it, would have resulted in pretty much instant impeachment, not just tried, but convicted in the Senate. It would have resulted in that, and it has become so normalized. So Klein's point is, we got to just put a stop to this. And if it means causing a massive pain massive disruption by shutting down the government, it's going to be worth the price. But what Klein does point out is the Democrats had better be able to explain themselves. Because if it's one thing Donald Trump is good at, it's explaining things in simple terms to convince you the other guy's worse than I am. So that's the real danger for the Democrats, because Schumer, Speaker Jeffries, Schumer, the Senate leader, are not known for being great communicators. They're just not. And so that's the real challenge. But I've always thought of this as sort of a shameless gimmick, shutting down the government, an irresponsible thing to do. But in light of the current daily atrocities that are being committed by our federal government, I think there's really no other way. So I'm endorsing Ezra Klein's position. I don't think it's something that should be done regularly. I don't think it's something that should be done as an act of fiscal responsibility. It has nothing to do with that. Anyone who's a so-called who thinks of themselves as a fiscal conservative can very easily propose cutting spending on things they want to cut and proposing tax increases to make up the difference. So it's not about that. But the way our laws are written and the way our Constitution is currently construed, it does require Congress, the Senate specifically, voting to increase the debt ceiling. So if this is something that has to happen to get the country to wake up to the fact that we are under siege. I mean, so many atrocities. People forget. I mean, the first thing he did in office was he gave pardons to traitors who stormed the U.S. Capitol, resulting in deaths of human beings, including one Capitol police officer the next day. Everyone likes to forget that. But the so-called Law and Order Party had traitors and rebels do seditious acts against our government, acts of rebellion, and this guy gave them a pardon and did much worse. The actual honest, law-abiding attorneys at the Justice Department who prosecuted these criminals, these rebels, these traitors, he fired those people. And now it's so egregious, they're talking about putting together some fund of compensation to help these poor traitors for how they were abused by having the laws applied to them. I mean, it's utterly sickening, and that's what our government is doing. And while I happen to think we need a federal government and a strong federal government, if it's going to be wasted on things like buying masks for people and terrorizing people in cities by soldiers of their own country that are supposed to be off protecting us from foreign wars, if we got to shut that down, then maybe that is a good thing. So you haven't heard much about it yet. You're not going to hear about it much probably this week. But in another week or two, get ready, because this whole debt ceiling issue, it's a perennial one, it's coming back, and it may have a different ending this time. The Democrats are always the responsible ones. They always do they always eat their spinach, so to speak. Maybe this is the time they've got to really stand up and say, look, we're not going any further. The Republicans in the Senate and the House have said, Mr. President, we're afraid of you. We'll never stand up to you. You could come to our house, molest our wives and daughters. We would say, way to go, great. You could come put a bullet in our foot or in chop our left arm. We'd say, thank you, sir, may I have another? That is the message Republicans in the House and Senate have sent Trump. The Democrats have no incentive to do that. So they're going to have to do something in a stronger and more forceful way. Otherwise, goodbye, America. Goodbye, democracy. Hello, 1940s Italy and Germany.